wanted to know view on specialty chemical sector for long term.
नहीं, so specialty chemicals,
Yeah.
the view is positive only. The only thing is कि ये जो specialty chemicals word है ना, ये बहुत ही abused है. Okay, so in the sense that कोई कुछ भी बनाता है नमक पानी तो भी उसको specialty chemical बोल देता है. So we have to work hard as as an individual investor. You have to work hard to understand what is specialty in that company. Why is it specialty? तो मेरा एक थंब रूल है उसमें. मैं जब ऐसी कंपनीज को इवेलुएट करता हूँ, व्हाट आई डू इज बेसिकली जो जो कंपनी क्लेम करती है कि मैं ये स्पेशलिटी केमिकल बनाता हूँ, तो आई आस्क देम, ठीक है, गिव मी योर 3-4 बिग प्रोडक्ट्स where you make the most amount of money. And when they give me the name of those products, I just Google and find out, how many competitors are there. Sometimes I can ask the company also; they are also forthcoming about competition. What is the global demand? What is the global supply? How big are you in the global supply? And you try and figure out how specialty it is, right? So if somebody says I have 500 competitors, clearly specialty nahi hai na. What do you mean by specialty? Specialty should be that there are very few people who are doing it or who are capable of doing it.
Correct.
तो ये जो वर्ड है ना स्पेशलिटी, इससे बहुत डर के रहने का लाइफ में. दिस हैज क्रिएटेड अ बबल इन लॉट ऑफ स्टॉक का वैल्यूएशंस. ओके.
Aditya bhai, just a moment. Prince, I am leaving. I have to take my dinner. Hello?
हाँ सर, प्लीज कंटिन्यू. ठीक है.
शरद सर, एक खाली फॉसेको पे आपका व्यू बताएंगे प्लीज सर. अच्छा है, मतलब मैंने भी जस्ट रिसर्च शुरू किया है उस पे.
तो रिसर्च ही करता रहे ना. रिसर्च करता है, अभी क्या रिसर्च करेगा? कितना नॉलेज है तेरे पास? मेरे पास कितना नॉलेज? कुछ नहीं है. ले लेना सीधा, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? प्राइस मूवमेंट से तो ले ले, बाद में रिसर्च कर. अच्छा है, पैसा बहुत बनेगा तेरा. इट्स एन एमएनसी, गुड वन, वेरी गुड. Sorry, Aditya, I'm leaving. Please.
नहीं, Sharad sir, it is a pleasure listening to you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. So yeah, मेरा वही दिमाग था कि basically when you hear specialty, be really alarmed and skeptical to begin with. Do your own research. If you feel that there are few people in the world making it, and there is a reason why there are very few people in the world making the product, then you consider the company specialty. Whether they call themselves specialty or not is irrelevant, right? And that is how you go about it. So once you have decided that it is specialty, then you see the valuation, the multiples, the free cash flow, the capex projections, and you take a call. I mean, that's how I do it. I'm just giving you my framework. I'm not at liberty to talk about specific stocks, but this is the framework I follow when I evaluate specialty companies. I hope that helps.
Prince, I have, since Aditya is here, I have few questions on pharma and hospital sector. I'll ask you and then we will move to Qs. आदित्य.
हाँ सर. हाँ प्रिंस.
अरे सर मत बुलाइए सर, आप बोलिए, आपको सर बुलाते हैं हम लोग. एक चीज बताइए, ये अपने ना बहुत जन बोलते हैं एमएनसी फार्मा कंपनीज में से दे हैव पैरेलल बिजनेस अनलिस्टेड इन इंडिया एंड एवरीथिंग.
करेक्ट.
एंड हेंस गवर्नेंस इशू है तो हाथ नहीं लगाना चाहिए.
करेक्ट.
बट गिवन द साइज एंड द मार्केट कैप एंड द बिजनेस जो लिस्टेड में रहता है, स्टिल यू विल से कि हाथ नहीं लगाना चाहिए.
एक्चुअली शरद भाई को सुन के ना मेरा मन करता है उनकी तरह बात करने का, तो आई विल ट्राई एंड स्पीक इन
प्लीज.
नहीं, इट्स फनी. सी आई विल टेल यू, इट्स वेरी सिंपल. एमएनसी फार्मा कंपनी का स्टॉक्स आप ना 2010 के पहले देखो और 2010 के बाद देखो, राइट? एंड 2015 के बाद देखो. 2010 से 15 में तो कुछ हुआ नहीं उनमें, बट 2010 के पहले तो कोई पूछता भी नहीं था. और 2015 के बाद एमएनसी फार्मा का स्टॉक्स चलना शुरू हुआ. ओके, सो लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड द होल एवोल्यूशन हियर. तो क्यों हुआ ये, राइट? सो 2010 के पहले मोस्ट ऑफ द इंडियन फार्मा कंपनीज they were not investing significantly in US. Very few of them were investing, like your Dr. Reddy, Ranbaxy, Sun Pharma. They were investing. Others were not investing. तो क्या होता था कि वो इंडियन फार्मा कंपनी भी इंडिया का बिजनेस करता था, एमएनसी भी इंडिया का बिजनेस करता था. Indian pharma company used to grow at 15, 20, 25% in India in those days. MNC pharma company used to grow 10, 12% in those days, just like they are growing 10, 12% today also. So, because of which, no investor used to ever think about investing in MNC pharma. And those stocks never went anywhere. They were just languishing where they were. Then 2010 to 15, Indian pharma companies had this big bonanza in the US generic market, where there were a lot of patent expiries and they were able to launch new products. And वहाँ बहुत पैसा बना बेसिकली फार्मा कंपनीज का भी और लाइक इन्वेस्टर्स का भी. देन इंडिया एमएनसी फार्मा कंपनीज का पूछ कब चालू हुआ? 2015 के बाद चालू हुआ. Why did investors start investing in MNC pharma companies? Because the Indian pharma companies, which are sitting on a very high base of profitability and product launches in the US, started facing price erosion and margin pressure. तो अगर मैं एक म्यूचुअल फंड हूँ या मैं एक एआईएफ हूँ या मैं एक पीएमएस हूँ और मेरा कुछ पैसा डेडिकेटेड है हेल्थ केयर को, 10% ऑफ माई कॉर्पस, 5% ऑफ माई कॉर्पस, 15% ऑफ माई कॉर्पस, तो मैं सोच रहा हूँ अभी कि ठीक है, अभी यूएस जेनरिक मार्केट इज गोइंग इनटू डीप ट्रबल, वेयर शुड आई deploy my healthcare ka paisa, then I cannot deploy it in Indian pharma companies because they are deploying more and more capital in US. So I can then buy the MNC pharma companies because they are not at liberty. It's not that they're doing out of choice. They're not at liberty. By their mandate, they're not allowed to invest the money that they make in India outside India. So then I started buying those stocks because I was finding a place to hide from the US price erosion. Now that is why the MNC pharma stocks did phenomenally well. If you look at the charts, you won't believe yourself as to what happened in 2015 to 2020 to these stocks. Okay, they went like, some of them went 10x, some of them went 20x. So that happened. Now today, what is the situation? So if you take it from point to point, 1980 to 2020, 40 years, MNC pharma companies have lost market share in India from 90% to 10%. So they have lost 80% market share in 40 years. अभी साइज है क्योंकि दे हैव बीन इन द मार्केट फॉर 40 इयर्स, तो साइज तो बनेगा ना. मार्केट ग्रोज, दे ग्रो विद द मार्केट, तो साइज तो आ गया. लेकिन साइज के साथ साथ आपको ये देखना है कि आपके लिए पैसा कैसे बनेगा. सो फॉर नाउ you can continue to make money in MNC pharma because for now the US generic market is still broken. It hasn't been repaired. You can invest capital, but when you invest capital, you need to be cognizant of what you are buying. So my purpose of saying such so many things, इतना लंबा आंसर देने का पर्पस ये है कि I can tell you कि you go with your eyes open. MNC pharma का स्टॉक अभी भी अच्छा क्यों करेगा? Because if they sell 100 rupee of top line in India, they make 20 rupee of bottom line. That 20 rupee of bottom line they invest in FDs, fixed deposit or liquid funds, and they get 3.5% on the fixed deposit or liquid fund that they're investing in. Whereas when an India pharma company, like let's say, let's say Aurobindo makes money, or let's say, Aurobindo is a wrong example. Let's say Cadila makes money. They put that money in the US, and there they make negative ROE or lower ROE than 3.5%. Okay, so the reinvestment from the cash flow of an FMCG business like India pharma business, that doesn't yield enough return in the India company today, but that yields 3.5 to 4% return in a MNC company.
Okay.
So
And-
because of which those stocks are still of some interest to people. But corporate governance wise, अगर यही काम कोई इंडिया प्रमोटर कर रहा होता कि एक लिस्टेड एंटिटी और दो प्राइवेट एंटिटी, और दो प्राइवेट एंटिटी में भी वही धंधा करता है जो लिस्टेड एंटिटी में करता है, तो आप छूते थे क्या स्टॉक?
Agreed.
नहीं छूते थे ना. अभी जस्ट एमएनसी करता है वही सेम काम, तो यू आर स्टिल आस्किंग, राइट?
Yeah. So, Mike, I don't know their details, but is there done by design के नहीं, पहले से तो नहीं था यार. ठीक है, I
नहीं
understand your
नहीं,
point.
so you understand ना. नहीं नहीं, you
हाँ,
understand why they
हाँ.
listed in India.
Yeah. अच्छा, tell me
इनको
one thing.
कोई
Say,
इंटरेस्ट नहीं था इंडिया में लिस्ट करने का इनको. They were forced by the government of India to list.
and
Government
then
of
they
India,
want to have private business as well.
exactly, government of India told them कि अगर इंडिया में धंधा करना है तो एक सब्सिडरी लिस्ट करो इंडिया में. दे सेड ओके ये लो एक सब्सिडरी लिस्ट कर दिया, अभी 5 में से एक कर दिया, तो आप फोर्स करोगे तो ऐसे ही आउटकम आएगा, राइट?
अंडरस्टूड. Tell me one more thing. Say अपने when we track say hospital business
हाँ
and they do a valuation, कुछ अपने करते हैं EV EBITDA टाइप का valuation के एशियन मार्केट्स में जनरली EV EBITDA 15-20 है या 20-25 होगा, I don't know,
हाँ
वैसे कुछ है. But to the counter argument, say I buy that argument कि अपना growth 3x 2x होगा उन मार्केट से. But to the
ठीक है,
counter argument, they come at a very different kind of cost of capital versus us. So shouldn't we
करेक्ट.
not be taking those examples as our EV EBITDA multiple? And plus hospital में भी वैसा I haven't tracked them that closely.
Sure.
But growth is that growth justify we are growing at 2x kind of thing from this Asian peers. We are taking the same multiple despite being a different kind of cost of capital.
सो देखो ये जो मल्टीपल का आर्ग्यूमेंट है ना, कंप्लीटली फ्लॉड है. कोई नहीं मतलब किसी कोई, आई नो लोग बोलते हैं कि थाईलैंड में इतना है, रशिया में इतना है, ताइवान में इतना है, तो इंडिया में इतना लेना चाहिए. वो कंप्लीटली फ्लॉड आर्ग्यूमेंट है. सी दी वे टू वैल्यू एनी फाइनेंशियल एसेट, अगर आप इन्वेस्टिंग की बात कर रहे हो, क्योंकि दिस कॉल वाज अबाउट ट्रेडिंग जो शरद भाई लीड कर रहे थे, बट बिकॉज यू आर आस्किंग मी अ क्वेश्चन, आई एम एन इन्वेस्टर एंड नॉट अ ट्रेडर. To from an investing standpoint, the only way to value any financial instrument is only a discounted cash flow method. Okay. Now you project cash flows, you discount cash flows. The discount rate you use is your local cost of capital, is the cost of capital of the company, right? And then you arrive at intrinsic value and you see what the implied EV, bid or price to equity or price to book, whatever multiple you want to compute, you can compute from the intrinsic value of the company, right? तो मैं तो इस फिलोसफी को बिल्कुल सब्सक्राइब नहीं करता हूँ कि किसी मार्केट का कोई सेम बिजनेस का मल्टीपल उठा लो और यहाँ का बिजनेस पे लगा दो. बाय दैट लॉजिक सन फार्मा शुड बी ट्रेडिंग एट 3 का ईवी बिडा मल्टीपल, बिकॉज दैट इज व्हाट एवर ट्रेड्स एट 3 का ईवी बिडा मल्टीपल, वेयर सन फार्मा शुड बी ट्रेडिंग एट 20 ईवी बिडा. तो वो तो खैर यू कैन नॉट सॉर्ट ऑफ यूज दैट एनोलॉजी एट ऑल. नाउ कमिंग टू हॉस्पिटल्स का ग्रोथ इन इंडिया, सो एक चीज आपको इसमें समझना पड़ेगा. अगेन आई एम सॉरी, मैं थोड़ा हिस्ट्री टीचर जैसा साउंड करता हूँ, बट विदाउट हिस्ट्री आई कैन नॉट एक्सप्लेन टू यू व्हाट फ्यूचर विल लुक लाइक. प्रोबेबली हॉस्पिटल्स हिस्टोरिकली ना इंडिया में गलत तरीके से कैपिटल इन्वेस्ट किए. They used to own the land and building in which the hospital was opened. To open a 200 crore, a 200 bed hospital in a city like Mumbai, in the suburbs of Mumbai, they used to spend 200 crores. Now, out of the 200 crores, 120, 130 crore was the cost of land and building, right? और खाली 60-70 करोड़ का कॉस्ट था मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट वगैरह जो अंदर रखते हैं बिल्डिंग के. सो उसमें क्या आरओई नहीं बनता है, बिकॉज योर कैपिटल डिप्लॉयड इज जस्ट टू हाई. ओके. But over the last decade in India, and 10 साल से चल रहा है ये phenomenon, now it has started overtaking the phenomenon of the older mistakes. So for the last 10 years in India now, almost each and every hospital that these chains have opened, they have leased the land and building. They have not owned the land and building. उससे क्या होता है, आपका 200 करोड़ का केपेक्स 70 करोड़ हो जाता है. हाँ, आपका इबिडा मार्जिन थोड़ा कम हो जाता है बिकॉज नाउ यू आर पेइंग लीज रेंटल्स, अर्लियर यू आर नॉट पेइंग रेंटल्स, बट योर आरओई इज सुपीरियर बिकॉज योर एसेट बेस इज सो मच स्मॉलर. So now what is happening is your ROE of the hospital business is looking better and better simply because the asset deployed is coming down per hospital, per new hospital that you open. So that is one part. Now, can these hospital top lines double, treble from here? The answer is yes. So last 10 year, India GDP growth rate, and when I say 10 year, I mean 2011 to 2021, India GDP CAGR was 5%. And last 10 year, the healthcare expenditure CAGR in India is 7.5, so which is 1.5x of GDP. Last 10 year, let's say Apollo Hospital top line CAGR is more than 10%. So even within healthcare, something like a organized player is growing faster than the overall healthcare market. तो बॉस डबल तो होएगा. द क्वेश्चन इज हाउ मच टाइम, राइट? तो मेरे हिसाब से इफ यू अज्यूम इंडिया जीडीपी ग्रोथ रेट इन द नेक्स्ट 5 years or 10 years to be 8%, I will not be surprised that the healthcare market grows 12-13%, and therefore I will not be surprised that some of these hospitals grow in mid-teens. In terms of top line बोल रहा हूँ मैं, bottom line will be higher because of operating leverage. तो I am तो extremely bullish on hospitals. क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि दे हैव करेक्टेड द प्रॉब्लम इन देयर बिजनेस मॉडल व्हिच वाज द एसेट डिप्लॉयड.
ओके, अंडरस्टूड। अच्छा, एक और चीज है, से आई एम फ्लिपिंग टू मच, ये डायग्नोस्टिक सेक्टर में
हाँ जी,
वॉट एवर डिसरप्शन इज कमिंग,
यस,
जस्ट आई वांटेड योर व्यू कि कितना चीज पैसा से इफ फॉर अ टेस्ट अ पर्सन इज चार्जिंग से 500, how much actually goes to the revenue of diagnostic, whatever listed company or unlisted, and how much goes as a distribution expense वो customer acquisition का? Because when we see say ARPU per test, तो मेरे को अभी याद नहीं है, बट व्हेन आई सॉ लॉन्ग बैक उतना उसमें ग्रोथ नहीं होता था जितना ये लोग अगर रिटेल प्राइस में देखते हैं, वॉट एवर इंक्रीज वी सी व्हेन वी आर पेइंग एज अ कस्टमर, that doesn't get reflected when we are seeing a diagnostic chain, their ARPU realization increase. So is it because of technology cost नीचे ला रहे हैं, या डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में बहुत ज्यादा, क्या परसेंटेज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में चला जाता है?
नहीं यार, उसमें बहुत सारे वेरिएबल्स हैं। सो क्वेश्चन आपने बहुत अच्छा पूछा, इट्स अ वेरी मीनिंगफुल क्वेश्चन, बट उसमें वेरिएबल्स बहुत ही ज्यादा है। सो लेट मी गिव यू एन एग्जांपल। सो एक मैं अपना फुल बॉडी चेकअप कराता हूँ जाके, राइट, नेबरहुड लेबोरेटरी में। तो वो मैं खुद से जा रहा हूँ लैब में, तो वहां पे वॉट एवर आई एम पेइंग ऑलमोस्ट एंटायरली लैब का आरपू वही है। मतलब देर इज नो लीकेज बिटवीन वॉट आई एम पेइंग एंड वॉट ही इज रियलाइजिंग। एक होता है कि मैं किसी डॉक्टर के पास गया, मेरे चेस्ट में दर्द है, मैं डॉक्टर के पास गया, डॉक्टर ने मेरे को एक सीटी स्कैन बोला, मैं सीटी स्कैन करने के लिए लैब में गया। वहां पे अबाउट 30% इज द लीकेज टू द डायग्नोस्टिक वर्सेज व्हाट आई पे। तो 30% गोज टू फॉर द रेफरेंस एंड फॉर द मार्केटिंग एंड वट एवर एक्सरसाइजेज यू कॉल इट, वो उसमें चला जाता है। 30 to 50% डिपेंडिंग ऑन द अरेंजमेंट बिटवीन द मार्केटियर एंड द मैन्युफैक्चरर। सो 30 to 50% का लीकेज पॉसिबल है वहां पे। देन ऑल्सो लास्ट का 2-3 साल का डेटा डायग्नोस्टिक लैब्स का बहुत ही डिस्टॉर्टेड है। डिस्टॉर्टेड क्यों है? बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड।
कोविड।
So initially RT-PCR came very high ticket, very high margin. Then the prices of RT-PCR got regulated, lower margin but still high ticket. Now it's still coming down. So now lower ticket, lower margin. तो ये अगर आपको डायग्नोस्टिक इंडस्ट्री समझना है तो आपको 2020 के पहले का डेटा ही देखना पड़ेगा। उसके बाद का डेटा का कोई सैनिटी नहीं है। देयर इज नो सैनिटी इन द डेटा ऑफ 2020, 21 एंड ऑलमोस्ट 22 नाउ। 23 का डेटा में सैनिटी आएगा वापस। So if you want to see sane data, look at the 2019 data and compare it with 2023 data. बीच का 3 साल भूल जाओ डायग्नोस्टिक इंडस्ट्री का, because they have gone through so much in these 3 years that and volatility which is not in their control, right? So RT-PCR स्टार्टिंग में मेरे को बोला जितना चार्ज करना करो, मैंने चार्ज किया। फिर बोला इतना ही चार्ज करो, मैंने उतना ही चार्ज किया। फिर कंपटीशन इतना इंटेंस हो गया कि सब कोई कम चार्ज करने लगे, मैंने कम चार्ज किया। एंड द कॉस्ट ऑफ माई डायग्नोस्टिक किट ऑल्सो केम डाउन ना। स्टार्टिंग में आरटीपीसीआर किट के लिए मेरे को 400 रुपए देना पड़ता था, अभी 40 रुपए में मिलता है, राइट? सो देर इज अ लॉट ऑफ difference things that happened in the last 3 years which impacted the way these businesses have looked over the last 3 years. So last 3 साल मत देखो इस इंडस्ट्री का, 2019 देखो, 2023 देख लेना, अभी जो भी आएगा नंबर्स, those will be the more stable indicators of what the business is evolving to. Now coming to the डिसरप्शन, राइट? सो मैंने एक हमारे इंक्रेड पीएमएस का एक न्यूज़लेटर निकला था 10-15 दिन पहले। इट वाज ऑन डायग्नोस्टिक्स। तो उसमें हमने काफी डेटा दिया है आपको कि डिस्काउंटिंग एंड ट्राइंग टू सेल लोअर प्राइस डायग्नोस्टिक टेस्ट सो फार हैजंट वर्कड. So I don't know how many of us on the call they have been aware of this lab called Healthians. Delhi wale should definitely be aware, but outside Delhi, I think very few people have heard of Healthians as a lab. So Healthians is promoted by former cricketer Yuvraj Singh, and it is also co-promoted by various private equity investors. Um, Healthians started, I think, in 2014, and unka test prices are lower than Tata 1mg, and they have been lower for 8 years now. Over these 8 years, Healthian's financial performance has been 70 crores ka top line. Latest performance is 70 crores ka top line and 45 crore ka loss before tax. Okay, and over these 8 years, Thyrocare ho, chahe Metropolis ho, chahe Dr. Lal ho, they have made thousands of crores of revenue incrementally, right? So so future में क्या होगा देख, मेरे को नहीं मालूम, तेरे को नहीं मालूम। हिस्ट्री नहीं सजेस्ट करता है कि डिस्काउंटिंग वर्क्स। In history, discounting worked only once when Thyrocare disrupted the thyroid market back in 1990. Uh, तो थायरोकेयर भी डिस्टर्ब था, लोग भूल जाते हैं ये चीजें. 1990 में डिस्टर्ब किया, तब 600 रुपया का था थायराइड का टेस्ट. थायरोकेयर स्टार्टेड विथ 100 रुपीज टेस्ट. But that disruption was a profitable disruption. See what thyro. So I would like to get feedback from you guys also. But in my books, disruption is when the disruptor and the audience both make money from the disruption. That is a sustainable disruption. ये जो लॉस बना के मार्केट में घुसने का कोशिश एंड बाद भी चार्ज कर लूंगा, ये जो है ना, दैट इज नॉट अ डिसरप्शन, दैट इज जस्ट अ गैम्बल somebody has taken. Okay, and that gamble only you can continue to play till there is free money tap behind you. वो free money बंद हो जाएगा तो you won't have money to burn. Then how do you carry your disruption forward, right? Because your disruption requires burning cash, right? So चाहे वो ई फार्मेसी हो, चाहे ये ऑनलाइन डायग्नोस्टिक्स हो, चाहे ये ऑनलाइन कंसल्टेंसी का बिजनेस हो, none of these guys are profitable. सबका डेटा है, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट अफेयर्स में सबका डेटा है. जाके एक एक एंटिटी का डेटा निकाल लो, ऑल ऑफ देम आर लॉस मेकिंग. और सबके पास अभी कुछ कैश बैलेंस पड़ा है क्योंकि इन्होंने बहुत ही इनसेन लेवल्स पे इक्विटी पे डाइल्यूट किया इन द लास्ट 2 years. So they've all got some cash left. But that cash is going to last only a year or two, right? They will need another round of equity then. अभी इस माहौल में कौन देगा इक्विटी का पैसा उनको? और अभी नहीं मिलेगा फिर कैश टू बर्न, तो फिर कैसे बिजनेस मॉडल आगे चलाएगा? फिर तो प्रॉफिटेबल होना पड़ेगा ना बिजनेस मॉडल सस्टेन करने के लिए. प्रॉफिटेबल होना पड़ेगा मतलब यू हैव टू चार्ज मोर देन द ब्रिक एंड मोटर ना. ब्रिक एंड मोटर का डेप्रिशिएटेड एसेट है, ऑलरेडी वॉल्यूम्स है, यू कैन चार्ज मच लोअर देन यू. तुम्हारा ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म है, एग्रीगेशन में तुमको कुछ मार्जिन देना होता होगा बैक एंड को. How will you charge less than him? Look at the value chain. No, brick and mortar guy is directly coming to the consumer. These are aggregators. They are taking the sample from you, giving to a third party, paying the third party to do the test and delivering the report to you. लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट है, प्लेटफॉर्म कॉस्ट है, बैक एंड कॉस्ट है. किधर से compete करेगा? He can only compete till he has a tap flowing behind him which keeps giving him fresh money to burn. The moment that tap stops, he's gone.
Yamka ji, I just
Yes,
had
sir.
a question.
Sir.
China, there was talk of pharmaceutical production moving from China to other countries like India.
Yes.
Is it actually working out? Is it panning out?
Sir, it is in progress. See, one thing you have to understand about pharmaceutical हो चाहे certain specialty chemicals, these are extremely regulated businesses. So decision अभी लास्ट के 2 साल में लिया गया है that many of these global MNCs have taken this call, and you can go and read the transcripts of these global MNCs. You don't have to ask me these questions. You can go and just do a Google on these global MNCs conference call transcripts. They have said China plus one very very clearly. So diversify. So they 3-4 phrases use करते हैं लोग. De-risking the supply chain, quote unquote. पहला phrase. Second phrase China plus one. Third phrase additional vendor. Okay, ये 3 phrases काफी फ्रीक्वेंटली पढ़े मैंने. तो ये तीनों फ्रेजेस को आप करोगे तो दे हैव सेड दिस मल्टीपल टाइम्स ओवर द लास्ट 2 years. So clearly they want to move away from China, but this is a regulated business. Once you have taken the decision to move, it will take you bloody 3 years to move. So क्या है? What is the process? So today I am let's say I am a global MNC like Pfizer. I am buying from let's say a Zhejiang company in China. I am buying sartans. Now I decide that I don't want to buy sartan only from Zhejiang. I want to buy it from a second party also, just to de-risk my supply chain, right? So I come to India. I do my due diligence on the 4-5 sartan manufacturers I can find in India. I tell one sartan manufacturer, let's say Ipca Laboratories for the sake of argument. I say Ipca that I will buy sartans from you now. Ipca says okay. You tell me which sartans, what is your make? Pfizer says this is the recipe I want you to make for me. Ipca starts manufacturing pilot batches, sends it to Pfizer for quality verification. Pfizer takes its own sweet time, verifies the quality, runs 5,000 tests on it to verify quality, standard, everything, sends a report back if everything is okay, or it sends a report back that these are the changes which we need. ये सारा प्रोसेस खत्म होता है, उसके बाद there is an acceptable quality that IPCA meets. Then Pfizer goes to the regulator, says please add IPCA in my dossier. I will not only procure from Zhejiang, I will also procure from IPCA. The regulator comes down to IPCA, audits his facility, audits the process, gives okay to Pfizer. Then Pfizer tells IPCA, okay, now I can start buying from you. Please manufacture commercial batches. Then IPCA manufactures commercial batches, sends the batch. That is when the first billing happens. ये पूरा प्रोसेस होने को 3 से 5 साल के बीच में कुछ भी लग सकता है, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द नंबर ऑफ आइटरेशंस एट ईच एंड एवरी स्टेज, राइट. सीमलेस होएगा तो 3 साल, विद सीम होएगा तो 5 साल. सो बेसिकली, तो yes, China plus one is in progress, but can you make money from this argument tomorrow in the market? No.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Aditya, for all the knowledge that you share with everybody. Going back to your point on diagnostics, two things I
Yes, sir.
wanted to add. That I think reliability and trust are two other big factors which come into this whole testing game,
Indeed.
where all these branded guys definitely come in. So I remember watching one of your interviews on YouTube where you were presenting the Incred Healthcare Fund.
Right.
And you mentioned that your diagnostics holding is obviously very low since pricing was out of whack at that point
Yes.
in time.
Yes.
Dr. Lal has broken down its 50% of what it was from those times.
Yes.
So have you kind of started picking up increasing holding on diagnostics? What's your overall view, 5-10 year horizon? Secondly, and just another two more questions. Your take on the results from Loris Labs and how do you see them progressing over the next 5 odd years, 5-10 years? And third, Syngene, I feel, is a very misunderstood company or ununderstood company. So if you could just elaborate a little bit more about that, just for everyone's benefit.
So stock specific, I will not give any buy sell recommendations. I'll tell you about the business model. Okay.
Exactly.
And this is my opinion
Sure.
on the business model. This is not a buy sell recommendation, just to get the disclaimer out of the way. So coming to diagnostics, your question was on, am I now okay with the valuation of diagnostic companies? The answer is yes. They are definitely more reasonable. See, I am a greedy person. I want it to be more reasonable than what it is today. But is it more reasonable than what it was in the past? The answer is for sure it is more reasonable than what it was in the past. So are we looking at it more positively today? The answer is definitely yes. Can it be still more positive? The answer is yes. I hope that addresses your first question. Coming to results on, let's say, something like a Loris Labs. See, Loris, again, I keep saying this, that many of these pharma companies are essentially conglomerates, right? So they do multiple businesses. So Loris be a conglomerate. They have 4-5 businesses. इसका API business is largely ARV. That is where they have a problem because the market is somewhat saturating there and competition doesn't seem to be backing down. So they have a challenge in terms of pricing and profitability and growth. So that
Correct.
segment is
And sorry to interrupt, but that injectable thing that's coming, the injectable, so I think that should also have an impact, right?
आई एम नॉट श्योर यार. देखो, कभी भी ओरल थेरेपी को इंजेक्टेबल से रिप्लेस होते हुए दुनिया में देखा है ना, इट हैज नॉट बीन अ ग्रेट सक्सेस. ठीक है, कोई कुछ भी बोले इंजेक्टेबल लगाने के लिए एक तो डॉक्टर के पास जाना पड़ता है, दूसरा दर्द होता है पेशेंट को.
फेयर पॉइंट.
और वो टैबलेट क्या घर पे ले सकता है आदमी. तो ये बात फेयर है कि इंजेक्टेबल क्या है, हफ्ता का एक चाहिए और टैबलेट दिन में 2 खाना पड़ता है. दैट इज अ फेयर पॉइंट. बट वो हफ्ता में एक बार आप डॉक्टर के जाओगे कि दिन भर 2 बार घर पे बैठ के टैबलेट खाओगे, वो आपकी मर्जी है. Plus the pricing of injectable will be more than 14 tablets. So we are comparing one injection to 14 tablets. So pricing will probably be significantly higher. So affordability का भी angle है. So I don't know whether that is a, I am not saying yes or no. I am just saying we don't know.
Question mark.
Definitely, we don't know the answer to that question. हो सकता है हो जाए, हो सकता है ना हो, because there are arguments on both sides. Now coming to so इनका ARV का business तो मतलब API business is slightly in a rocky path because the largest segment within the API, which is ARV, is going through a turbulent phase. And will it improve? Very likely not. So it will remain like this for a few years to come. Now coming to their formulation business, so far their formulation business has LMIC as the lion's share of their sales. They sell ARV formulations in low and middle income countries, and they sell some ANDAs in US, which is very small today. And they've recently done a capacity expansion also, 5 billion tablets ka 10 billion tablets ka diya hai capacity. So multiple things are playing out there, right? So LMIC में क्या हो रहा है? Pricing pressure है ARV tablets पे. So that is creating some loss on margin and top line on the ARV formulation. US ANDA, they are too small today, 100 crore plus revenue, plus minus 20 crores. So उतना छोटा base पे they will still continue to grow because that business is very large in the market. So they will go and get their fair share. And they've done a capacity expansion for that business. So they'll be able to supply more tablets. And that is where they'll probably make some growth. But overall, I don't like this business where you are just tender business है दोनों जगह, चाहे LMIC में हो चाहे US में हो. This is again a business which has got that capex intensity, pricing pressure, competition, and I generally try to stay away from such businesses because इनमें पैसा बहुत मुश्किल से बनता है. I like easy money, so जहाँ आराम से पैसा बच जाए अपने लोग वहीं पे रहे तो अच्छा है. This is a business where you can make money, but it's tough to make money. तो वहां पे इनका ग्रोथ आएगा बट दैट ग्रोथ विल कम बाय कैपेसिटी एक्सपेंशन, केपेक्स इंटेंसिटी, वर्किंग कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. तो कैश फ्लो कितना आएगा मालूम नहीं. एंड रिमेंबर आई स्टार्टेड माय टॉक टुडे बाय सेइंग दैट एनी सिक्योरिटी शुड बी वैल्यूड ऑन DCF, सो कीप दैट इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट. तो कैश फ्लो पता नहीं कितना आएगा बट टॉप लाइन मार्जिन थोड़ा थोड़ा आ जाएगा फॉर्मुलेशंस में. Now the most interesting part for Laurus is the synthesis business, the custom synthesis business. I think they're doing phenomenally well there. They're doing phenomenally well there, and that business I'm very very excited about. But दुर्भाग्य ये है कि I can't buy only that business. I have to buy either the entire piece or nothing of it. So then, you have to take that call for yourself whether you like that business so much that you can buy the other two businesses for it, or do you hate the other two businesses so much that you don't want to buy this business for it. That answer can be different for all of us, depending on how our framework analyzes the company. So that is my take on it, Loris.
And sorry, just to jump in here on the biologics piece, this CAR-T, the
नहीं यार,
CAR-T acquisition,
तो
etc.
स्मॉल यार, 100 करोड़ का टॉप लाइन है यार.
Okay.
अभी मतलब लॉरस के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में 100 करोड़ का टॉप लाइन का क्या बात करूं. फॉर्मुलेशन इज 2000 करोड़ नो. हाँ, तो सिंथेसिस चलो ठीक है 1000 करोड़ के आसपास है, फॉर्मुलेशन 2000 है, API 1000 है. उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में व्हाट डू आई टॉक अबाउट 100 करोड़ का बिजनेस. सो
पोटेंशियल है, आपको दिखता है
पोटेंशियल. सी this answer actually will link to your Syngene answer. तो let's talk about Syngene because वो सेम धंधा है, राइट? जो लॉरस का डायरेक्ट कोर में, that is the same as what Syngene is doing. So which is why I didn't speak about it. So Syngene और just the CRO business, right? वो तो मोनोपोली है ना Syngene का भी इंडिया में. ठीक है, रिच कोर है लॉरस के पास, इप्का इज ऑल्सो डूइंग समथिंग, एंड अदर्स आर ऑल्सो, देयर आर मेनी अदर smaller companies trying to do some stuff on biologic CRO. But see, when you run a CRO, your biggest challenge is to win the trust of your customer because your customer is who? MNCs, no? These global patent holders, right? And if you think of a Pfizer, if you think of a Amgen, a Biogen, what is it that their valuation is based on? Their valuation is based on their IP, intellectual property, right? That is everything that they have. उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं है उनके पास. IP is the only thing that they have, and they have to share this IP with you to make you work for them as a CRO. So to get them to trust you is extremely difficult, which is why this business globally has very few players. क्योंकि ये ट्रस्ट इतना आसान नहीं है आने का, राइट? अभी Syngene has proven to you that he's one of the guys these people are willing to trust. In fact, in India, the only guy that these people are willing to trust. So, to my mind, that is a humongous achievement. Humongous matlab monumental achievement, okay? And for our country, I mean, Syngene is one company which is doing it for us, but for our country. So yeah, I mean, I think you are right. It is less understood as a company. But that will not stop the company from growing because ये क्या snowball business है, right? So 10 of us do innovator businesses. One of us goes to Syngene, gives him one project, he does well. I give him three more projects, does well. The other guy goes, gives him two projects, he does well. Then the other eight also want to go to Syngene, right? Because they say कि ये दोनों कर सकते हैं तो हम क्यों नहीं कर सकते? तो it's a business that has a snowballing. इसको J curve बोलते हैं, unseen value. Whenever he writes,
Correct.
he writes about a J curve. ये J curve ये होता है. Basically, Me Too है. When you find people you want to trust your life with. So जैसे wealth managers का होता है ना, my पड़ोसी
Correct.
as a wealth manager, he has done well for him. So I say कि अरे मेरा पड़ोसी उसको पैसा दिया, he's done well for him. So why can't I trust the same guy, right? So वो Me Too है थोड़ा. बट वो मीटू इज वेरी वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग। मतलब अपने को लोग को लगता है कि विद इन नेबर्स मीटू होता है, नहीं, मीटू गोस फॉर एमएनसी फार्मा कंपनीज आल्सो इन दिस केस। देयर दे वांट टू फाइंड दोस फ्यू पीपल दे कैन ट्रस्ट विद देयर इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी, राइट?
True. Thank you so much.
माय प्लेजर।
Raman, you can ask your question, and then I guess Prince and Vajpayee, you can make a concluding remark.
Yeah, thanks. And hello, Aditya. It's a great opportunity to even ask you a question. Aditya, I just wanted to know about the injectable space because, in a very broad level, I've been hearing that this is one space which none of the Indian companies have been able to break into, and there have been a lot of issues and surprisingly hygiene issues which have come up. So, do you know anything which is now changing in this space vis-a-vis an Indian company? And also, if I can squeeze in, are you tracking any company which is into fermentation-based API production in India?
Yeah,
These are my two questions. Thanks.
yeah. Thanks for the question. I think so. For fermentation is an easier answer. I'll give you that. So yes, there is a API manufacturer in India that is in fermentation. It is listed. I don't want to name it because वो pump and dump और क्या क्या होता है, and it's too small for me to buy in my fund. So I don't have it in my fund, but I don't want to name it. But there is a listed fermentation API player, and they are currently in the process of upgrading their plant and everything because the order book has just blown up, and the plant is not it was not designed to handle that order book. So तो अभी वो पूरा plant change कर रहा है. So anyways, that is happening. So there is a fermentation based API player in India, and there are others also who run unlisted space. Big opportunity because China has a monopoly on fermentation, and just like any other thing, people who are buying fermented products from China want a alternative source. So there are people in India making an effort to change that. So there are a couple of fermentation players actually listed, not one. There are two listed. So that is that. तो वहां पे है बहुत बड़ा अपॉर्चुनिटी है, बट पेशेंट मनी, अगेन रेगुलेटेड बिजनेस है. सो डोंट बाई टुडे और टुमारो होपिंग कि 1 महीना में 5 महीना में हो जाएगा कुछ, वो नहीं होगा. सो इफ यू बाई विथ योर पेशेंट कैपिटल, द कैपिटल विच यू डोंट नीड टू लुक एट फॉर द नेक्स्ट 5 years or 10 years, वैसा कैपिटल से खरीदो. Coming to your question on injectables, so this is a very very debatable topic, but I'll give you my view, and with it I will tell you that I have gone wrong for the last 3 years with this view. So my view is that injectable supply to the US market is just as commodity a business as oral solid supply to the US market, because marketplace same hai na. The only difference is that, let's say the demand for oral solids in US is X and the supply for oral solids is 2X. In injectable, if demand is X, supply is 0.8X or 0.9X. So in the last 10 years, where the oral solid prices in US have come down on an average by 6 to 7% for a generic pharma company, the prices of injectable generic products in US have actually gone up by 6-7% CAGR on the last 10 years. So they have seen inflation when the other pockets of generic market were seeing deflation in prices. Now, therefore, the key question to answer here is, in your process framework, the key question to answer here is this peak margin, peak profitability, and peak multiple, right? So the disaster time to buy any stock is peak margin, peak multiple, right? Which means the stock is 5X, 10X of its value today, right? Injectable gives me that feeling. क्योंकि there's a lot of injectable supply which has been created, but that supply has not been able to be monetized. Now, what is the reason it is not monetized? That reason is largely compliance. Now, so the largest injectable player, which makes so much of a brouhaha and gets a enormous multiple for its brouhaha, they keep saying that our compliance is our moat. Wrong, incorrect. I don't read it that way. Sorry, my interpretation is not that. They may be right in saying that in their own rights. My interpretation is that their moat is the non-compliance of others. Tomorrow, if others become compliant and supply, there is nothing that this company will be able to do it and their moat will be violated. No. So any moat which can be violated by somebody else's actions is not actually a moat. A moat is something which only you can destruct, right? So the moat for this injectable player, which is doing so well in injectables, is that the others who have injectable capacity are unable to monetize it because they are non-compliant. Correct? Now, my point to you is, do you want to buy something at 35, 40 earnings multiples, or 25, 30 EBITDA multiples, or 10 times sales multiple, where the future is not dependent on the actions of this company? It is actually dependent on the actions of the other companies who have created capacity and are waiting to monetize it just because they are waiting for the FDA audit to happen. See, this company got 2 extra years because 2 years FDA was not auditing. तो वो 2 साल तो ऐसे ही निकल गया. Now FDA has again started auditing. Now when FDA again audits the injectable capacity of the other players, two potential outcomes: either an approval or again issues. If again issues, the moat will continue. If approval, the moat will still destruct. Because supply will hit the market, price will come down, market share loss होएगा, volume will come down. See, दो hit आता है, price and volume both go, both reduce. So if price declines by 10 and volume declines by 10, your revenue declines by 28%, right? तो वो थोड़ा उस पे ध्यान देना. तो I feel injectable, but I have been feeling this for last 3 years. So please do your own work. My capital generally is a 5 to 10 year capital. So I can afford to go wrong for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and I don't blink an eye. But you guys need to take your call for themselves. So अगर आपका capital 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter का capital है, maybe injectable will continue to be a very, very interesting space to be in. But from a 5, 10 year standpoint, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think you put it so, it's a very helpful way of looking at the compliance, that it should be default and it's not in moat until someone else also manages to have that compliance level. Mm. Actually, Aditya, I wanted to ask more in terms of, I'm not referring to one popular injectable company which is in India.
Sure.
And I guess you are referring to that one. But my question is more on the other ones which have formulation businesses, but however have been not able to break into injectables. So, is there a significant opportunity for any of the ones? Do you see anyone who has a potential? And two, does injectables also depend upon certain diseases, or maybe biologics? Do they prefer to have it through injectables? So I was actually trying to understand it in that way.
In that context.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
in that context, it is an opportunity now, because see, the guy who is already there is making 40% return on equity. No? So the next guy who hits the market will cut the price. He will make 35% return on equity. The following guy who comes will again cut the price. He will make 30% return on equity. The next guy who comes, he will make 25% return on equity because he'll further cut the price, and so on and so forth. So you can play the injectable potential of other guys till the return on equity of the incumbent hits 15%. That is when this guy is also making 15%. And after that, whoever comes will take the return on equity below cost of capital. So उसके बाद तो injectable भी नहीं देखने का है.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. So which companies you are confident on?
Yeah, I can't name companies, but I think if you.
So what should I look for if I have to? Because everyone keeps
that's
talking
the right
about
question.
it. Yeah.
That's the right question. What is the framework there? So the framework there is, whoever is successful in injectable outside of the US is very likely to be successful in injectable even in the US.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Aditya. I cannot say enough, but I follow you and I learn so much from you, and you have always been very generous with your knowledge
अरे
and
यार,
your
this is the
perspectives.
second session I've hijacked यार. I came to here to Sharad bhai, वो तो चले गए. And then I'm getting questions. Last time Velumani sir थे यार. This is not
Sir,
nice.
people really love listening to your thoughts. You are so eloquent on the pharma space. We really get to understand the difficult sector, and we really appreciate it. And we sincerely request you to give us time specifically so that pre-planned spaces people come up with or many questions. In random spaces, we often see that some mixed questions are asked. So anytime in when you feel like and you have time, sir, we would love to host you somewhere.
करेंगे at some point in time. We'll do it.
Thank you.
Also for everyone, there was one very good interview from Aditya about a month back. Bloomberg Point, I guess. Neeraj, I just shared that link on this Twitter Spaces. You can search that on YouTube as well. So please listen to that interview.
I wanted to say something before you conclude the call. May I?
Please,
Yes, sir,
please.
please.
So, I know there are a lot of retail investors here. I heard a lot of them ask questions to Sharad bhai and Ravi bhai, and I know you all are trying to make an honest living. So I'll give you something which I feel is nobody's paying attention to. Okay, and you can actually get in, so to say, at the ground floor of this opportunity. So, but I will not take company names, but I'll give you the framework to work with. And if you apply this framework, I'm sure you'll come up with 5 to 10 names where you can stay invested over the next maybe 5 years. So what has happened? Okay, so just be very focused. I may take 2-3 minutes to put my point. So in April 2022, the Indian government allowed pharma companies to increase their prices of products in India. This is specific to the Indian business of the pharma companies. The products which are under NLEM, they are allowed to increase the prices by 10.77%. That is the WPI. Now, how is this WPI 10.77% calculated? So if they are taking for April 22, then they actually take the WPI for Jan to December 2021. And then they average the WPI to arrive at the number that they should allow the pharma companies to increase prices by in April. Okay, so far so good. So Jan to December 2021 का WPI का average लिया और April 22 में आके announce कर दिया कि that is the percentage by which you can increase prices of your products because there has been an increase in the cost of production which is reflected in the WPI. ठीक है, अभी pharma companies का cost inflation started happening in September 2021. तो सितंबर का 21 का जो रिजल्ट्स था एंड दिसंबर का था एंड मार्च का था उसमें मार्जिन्स वर सप्रेस्ड बिकॉज रॉ मटेरियल कॉस्ट वाज हाई बट दे वर नॉट एबल टू पास ऑन बिकॉज उनको प्राइस सिर्फ अप्रैल में बढ़ाना अलाउड है. नाउ अप्रैल में दे हैव इंक्रीज प्राइसेस. नाउ मे एंड अप्रैल एंड मे द इन्वेंट्री विच दे सोल्ड इज द ओल्डर प्राइस इन्वेंट्री बिकॉज 2 महीने का इन्वेंट्री मेंटेन करता है हर फार्मा कंपनी इंडिया में. जून में सिर्फ नया प्राइस का इन्वेंट्री बिका है विच इज द हायर प्राइस इन्वेंट्री. Now your 1Q23 results will reflect a 1 month higher price sales and September quarter will reflect the full quarter of higher price sales. But it doesn't stop here. Raw material prices now have starting to cool off. Obviously, that some of it is driven by crude, some of it is driven by other commodity prices, etc., freight cost, all of which is cooling off from the peak. But come April 2023, what will happen? Government will take Jan to December 2022 WPI. Now look at the WPI for Jan to July. And I'll end there. So that is something I just wanted to share with you guys here.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Ravi, I have some issue with the screen. I am not seeing all the audiences. Are we done with the questions, or anyone is left to ask question from sir?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but there's one request from Krishna, but it's getting late. Let me try to put Krishna. I'm not able to hear. Just a second.
Anyway, we will take his request next time, or perhaps if he have any question, we'll coordinate and ask from Aditya sir. Thank you once again, sir, for coming to our spaces and adding value. And those who are those who have interest in pharma space, so Aditya sir and Unseen Value, Sajal sir and Puneet Bansal, three handles I really admire, and literally you guys are helping retail people big time, sir. Seriously, fan of yours.
Hey,
Yeah,
thank
Ravi.
you. My pleasure, and hope all of us make a decent, hard-earned return on our capitals. That is the reason why we share, and I think we all believe that sharing includes learning also. So whatever feedback you guys have, I write newsletters. I share those newsletters on Twitter and LinkedIn. So any feedback you guys give us helps us to improve, helps us to get better. So let's keep it a two-way street. Let's keep the communication going, and hopefully we'll all benefit from such interactions.
Right, sir. So true. Yeah, Ravi. Any concluding remarks from your side? Then we
No,
wrap
yeah,
it up.
just thanks for everyone for staying so late. It's been a very long session, and thanks Aditya for patiently taking all the questions. We can conclude. Yeah, it's getting late now.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. And guys, if you are liking our spaces, do connect with us. And we often host such spaces. And obviously, it is a mutual platform where good questions and good answers add to our knowledge, and keep coming. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.